people will do things like Red Bull vodka, right? And then people mix it with things like alcoholic vodka, and they're becoming more and more intoxicated. But the stimulation from the sugar and the caffeine gives them a false impression of sobriety because they feel awake and they're not sedated. And so they keep going, they keep drinking, and then they, either get behind a wheel, God forbid, or, they just get alcohol toxicity and other things.
So just moving on energy drinks. I remember because you put a video on drinks that you would avoid. One of them was like a drink called Bang. And I know there are a lot of people who love that drink because they go, it doesn't have any sugar in there, but then it's got so much caffeine.
Yeah. So one of the things that I regret is, much against the advice of my brother who, does a lot of social media, just because that video had so much feedback from viewers in terms of their absolute appalled reactions about me, saying anything bad about energy drinks, or people who were just mortified that I thought kombucha wasn't, a good drink. I unfortunately I had to take that video down because I thought that, because I wanted to, keep my, integrity as a physician and stay true to my word. I didn't want people to spin things out of control and out of context and see it as misinformation or take advice improperly. But, energy drinks in general, and especially ones like Bang, they have so much caffeine. I think some of them have upwards of 400 milligrams in a single can. And that is about the entire recommended daily allowance for an adult. And when you think about energy drinks and how they're formulated, they're made to go down easy. So a cup of coffee can last you, half an hour. You drink it slowly. It's hot. Sip it slowly. It's bitter. Of course, we're talking about black coffee, not like creamer and sugar. But it's bitter, it's hot, it goes down slowly over social, occasion. Whereas a Bang energy drink, people are drinking those rapidly. They're doing it in a sense to, wake themselves up and get some energy. And unfortunately, other than just a high dose of caffeine that comes in a short period of time, which is typically your maximum daily allowance for a full 24 hours. It also has tons of sweeteners, sometimes sugar, artificial sweeteners, which, that's a whole other discussion, but, they have tons of sugar. They have other additives that are either caffeine, potentiators like taurine or, guarana, which is actually broken down into a substance basically like caffeine or yerba mate and all those things. So you're actually getting more than the 400 milligrams. So, that's where I see the danger in energy drinks. And that's why I heavily discourage them in the video. But the truth of the matter is so many people buy and drink them and love them and swear by them that it just was not well received. And, I just didn't want any more misinterpretation and ended up taking it down. But, I get patient, people don't believe it, but I do see people coming in who are extremely tachycardic, people who are having palpitations that were severe enough to bring them to the emergency department, people who feel severely anxious, or people who withdraw when they stop taking them. Because that's the other downside of energy drinks, is because they go down so smoothly, people drink more than one a day. Sometimes they'll drink like 2, 3. And what I find the worst part of it all is that they're really they're marketed and tailored towards younger consumers, like teenagers and kids. And, I think, somebody in high school should not be drinking, energy drinks and getting like 200 to 400 milligrams of caffeine in one shot, and then drinking another one in the afternoon to stay awake. And then, another one when they're out with their friends. I feel like it can create a dangerous pattern. And, that's what I don't like about them. And that's why I touted it as one of my worst drinks from the standpoint of an emergency physician, because I've seen people come in because of energy drinks. And, there were plenty of people who chimed in and agreed. But I just, maybe it's me being self-conscious or just having this need for, maintaining an integrity as a physician, but I just ended up taking it down because I felt like people were saying a lot of things that were false or misleading in a comment section. And, sadly I had to remove it. Maybe I might do another one and revise it and just be a little bit clearer, about what I'm trying to say. Same thing with the salt and the high blood pressure, might just have to put another one of those up there. We'll see.
Yeah. And caffeine's a whole new subject because there's companies that sell caffeine drinks, coffee beans. People love that. And when you talk about caffeine, talking about the cons of caffeine. People get angry, they were like, because it's always changing in the news. I remember a few years ago, they were like saying, don't drink too much coffee because of caffeine. It's bad for you. And then a year later, the same newspaper publishes a article on the benefits of coffee. It's always like swinging back and forth. And I grew up actually, where I actually thought caffeine, especially drinks like Red Bull, were kind of dangerous for you, because I had an uncle who was a doctor. And I remember going into a shop with him. I must have been 15 at the time. So a lot of kids were drinking Red Bull. It was like the cool new drink to drink. And I remember getting it from the freezer, from the fridge. And my uncle was like saying, no, you're not having that. That's dangerous. That can cause heart problems. And that kind of scared me. And I never drank Red Bull, I think, until I was like 19 or 20. Almost like drinking alcohol.
I think what people don't realize, and this is what's frustrating when I post something like this, is that you have a lot of non-medical people who speak out against me for saying that. But what they don't realize is that, when I see a patient who comes in with palpitations, one of the first things we, go through is, what are they drinking? Are they having tons of coffee? Are they having energy drinks? Because the first thing the cardiologists will tell you is cut out all caffeine when people have arrhythmias like AFib or, palpitations for other reasons. And it's just frustrating because people say things like, I've been drinking these for years and I have no problem. But you can't take your own anecdotal evidence as gospel. And maybe you will have a problem later on. It's hard to say. But, the point of the matter is, and, this is kind of the difficult part of doing posts like this, is that there's a lot of people who swear by their energy drink. And just will completely call you out on it, no matter what your credentials or background. The other downside is that people will do things like Red Bull vodka, right? So Red Bull itself doesn't have as much caffeine as some of the other energy drinks, but it has sugar, it has additives, and then people mix it with things like alcoholic vodka, and they're becoming more and more intoxicated. But the stimulation from the sugar and the caffeine, gives them a false impression of sobriety because they feel awake and they're not sedated. And so they keep going, they keep drinking, and then they, either get behind a wheel, God forbid, or, they just get alcohol toxicity and other things. So, it is a potent thing, right? It could be used, for good and bad. And a lot of it is used for bad sometimes.
Yeah. So I had like a House MD moment there with the caffeine.
Oh yeah.
But I stopped as well in 2019, actually. And what I found when I started going into my clinic, I was very tired because I was used to drinking coffee in the morning. And that kind of kept me awake. I would come in, when you're starting with your first patient. And then after a month of not drinking coffee, you kind of get addicted to it. Like my body was used to it. It took me at least a month to actually wean off it, to be to a point where I didn't feel tired anymore. Did you go through the same experience when you kind of stopped taking coffee?
It's hard to say. I mean, I substituted with tea, which has little bits of caffeine, so I wasn't in complete withdrawal per se. But I definitely, like in the beginning, I might have felt it a little bit. I'm having a hard time. Remember, it's now 4 years, but I think in the early stages, even though I was still getting some caffeine, I think there was a little bit of some withdrawal to it because I didn't feel as stimulated and energized before shifts. And then slowly I started to readjust and I found a new normal. But it's not something that's essential in life. We don't have to have caffeine. But a lot of things have it. And, certain teas, non-herbal teas naturally have it. Yeah, I think that there was like probably a short period of readjustment, when I first stopped drinking coffee. I think the biggest thing that I missed was, despite that I'm not drinking coffee and it doesn't mean I hate it. I actually really like the smell of like freshly brewed coffee. And, I think that there's a certain kind of cool, artistic approach to, going to like a place, that, takes pride in the different styles of brews and coffees that they create with their bean roasting and all that. But yeah, I just know that it was just a little bit much for me. And at this point, I've become accustomed to a much lower baseline level of caffeine in a day.
Yeah, and you can also get decaffeinated coffee.
Yeah, it still has a little bit of caffeine, but yes, it's decaf. And I thought about that too. And maybe just drink some decaf for the sake of. But maybe I have a strong willpower, but I just feel like I don't really need it.